It's Penny Zent.
How long have you known M.A. Sterling?
Oh goodness, let's see. About the mid-'80s when he was a student here at Texas A&M.
I'm Mark Edwards. I work at KMUFM, and occasionally I've been known to do a little sports announcing for Texas A&M.
So Mark, how long have you known M.A.?
Aggies ball! Oh, wait, sorry, I got distracted. What was the question again?
How long have you known M.A.?
About 9 years since I first came here. Although this is not where I first met M.A., although he probably doesn't remember it that way, but about 9 years.
My name is Rod Zent, Executive Director of Educational Broadcast Services and KAMU TV and FM. Gosh, I have known M.A. Sterling a long time. Since I've been here about 40 years, I think M.A. has been around most of those. Oh, he's not as old as me, obviously.
I'm Elaine Hoyak.
And Elaine, how long have you known M.A. Sterling?
Gosh, I have known M.A. for a very long time. We got to know each other way back when he and Wanda Deza were doing Stage Center. And I was on the board at Stage Center, and my daughter Cindy and I performed in a lot of the shows that M.A. had. So I've known him for a long time.
So, given that you've known him for a long time, and M.A. in general, I'm sure you have good stories on him. What is your favorite M.A. story?
You know, M.A. to me is the consummate artist. He is so dedicated, and when I think of M.A., I always think of someone who makes arts fun. And he wants to engage everyone. It doesn't matter your talent level or skills. He encourages you and he makes you feel good about yourself. So that's kind of who M.A. is to me in some ways.
Okay. Do you have a favorite M.A. story?
Well, I don't really have any specific stories that come to mind right now. I just know that when I think of M.A., I think of energy and I think of laughter and fun.
Do you have any favorite M.A. isms?
Well, he's kind of one of these guys that wants to keep on keeping on.
So if you could only say one thing to M.A., what would that be?
M.A., I want you to continue what God's gifts have given you and that you have shared with everybody in this local community throughout all the arts, and just say amen.
And finally, you've kind of talked about this, but what does M.A. mean to you?
M.A. to me is someone who has lived his dream. He is a person who has pursued the path that God has led him with his talents, and I think M.A. has shared all of that with the folks in our community, especially family and kids, and it's been a wonderful knowing him as a colleague and a friend.
And what is your favorite M.A. story?
I think some of my favorite stories about M.A. are actually seeing him in productions. So the first time that I ever saw him was as Audrey II in The Little Shop of Horrors, and I will never forget it. Then, not long after that, I actually saw him as the Reluctant Dragon, and playing the part of the dragon in a John Brudder production that was being done by the Brazos Valley Chorale. So seeing M.A. on stage is some of my favorite, not necessarily stories, but certainly memories and highlights.
What is your favorite M.A. story?
You know, I think one of the things that reminds me of M.A. each and every time is the 4th of July. And I think the first time I ever really noticed M.A., we were back at Olson Field when they did the fireworks. And M.A. did one of the most beautiful renditions of the Star Spangled Banner I think I have ever heard. So, M.A., I'll always remember you every 4th of July, no matter what.
What's your favorite M.A. story?
I don't really have so much a story as just a collection of really good memories. One of the cool things that MA does, at least in my humble opinion, is every year for the women's basketball team, he serves as Santa Claus at Christmas time. Gary Blair has these luncheons, and as we get near Christmas, MA dons a maroon Santa suit and places himself in harm's way with everything from 6-year-old children to 76-year-old children. And I think it's pretty cool seeing MA there kind of dealing with the public in the way that only MA as Santa Claus could really do.
So when you hear the name MA, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Mighty active.
Who or what is MA to you?
MA embodies the arts. MA is the arts in this community for many, many people. His long work with children and family activities have been so comparable with our public television programming for our children that I think MA is a great partner with us.
So when you hear the name MA, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Kids, and I tend to mist up when I think about this because I've got an 11-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter, and parenting to me is a big thing. I love being a dad, and I think that it is the coolest thing on the planet that MA gets to kind of be, for some of these kids with which he works at Troop, kind of a dad or a buddy or a cousin or an uncle or a brother filling a role. I mean, he's got kids doing things on stage that probably without that kind of guidance and leadership, they wouldn't get the opportunity to do. Building confidence in themselves, learning to comport themselves in a way that will only help them when they're older. The fact that MA is doing stuff for a living that benefits kids is awesome. That's Mount Rushmore stuff to me.
If you could say only one thing to MA, what would that be?
Let me thank you for your extreme generosity with your talent and your time and your devotion to the arts in this community. We would not be the same without M.A. Sterling.
And finally, what does MA mean to you?
M.A. means heart, it means soul, it means commitment, it means a love of a community and a love of fellow man. That's M.A. Sterling.
So Penny, when you hear the name MA, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Kids. He loves children, and I think he was put on this earth to help train kids and work with children to make sure that they have not only a good time, but some skills, and he's just doing good things with the troop.
So who or what is MA to you?
MA is a wonderful friend and a colleague. We have worked together over many, many years to promote the arts here in the community. I've watched him grow up from being a student here at A&M to celebrating the 21st anniversary of his 29th birthday, and I'm really glad to count him as a friend.
Do you have any favorite MA isms?
Not really. I probably need to come up with one to call him. We were doing an interview one day, and he heard something on the radio, and it was just really funny because I discovered that he had perfect pitch during the interview. Had no idea. So I need to come up with he's a one-note wonder. I don't know.
So, if you could say only one thing to MA, what would that be?
MA, I love you, and happy birthday.
And finally, what does MA mean to you?
Again, I think MA is all about the kids, and he and Wanda Desa came up with such a wonderful idea to start the Brazos Valley Troop. He has done a fabulous job taking her lead and continuing on, and I just want to wish him so much success into the future because I think he's just a great guy.
If you could say only one thing to MA, what would that be?
Don't stop. What you're doing is awesome, it's important, it's incredible, and not enough people like you are out there helping our kids, doing important things for the public. I mean, it's entertainment, but it's really big for them. Don't stop.
And finally, what does MA mean to you?
I always like to play with the initials, and the ones that come to mind, again, it all ties back into Troop and the Kids, is meeting aspirations. Kids have got dreams, and MA puts them on the right path, gives them a little nudge, every now and then a kick in the, wherever it needs to be kicked. He does the things that need to be done to help kids that need a little help, and I think that is really cool. So that's what the MA means, meeting aspirations. Kids are getting to do things, and hopefully are going to be successful based on a part of what MA is instilling in them.
So, do you have any favorite MA-isms, any favorite sayings?
I don't want to have a specific one. Part of my job here at KMU is when he comes in for those, every month or so interviews with Penny talking about things coming up for Troop, I get to edit the interviews. And there are parts of interviews where Penny will ask MA a question, and for about the next 12 seconds of the interview, you'll get about 37 syllables that don't really go together. And I get to clean that stuff up. So if I'd have saved all of that over the years, I'd probably have about 40 minutes of a bunch of really strange sounds that don't really have any English words in them.
Who or what is MA to you?
MA to me is, he's a buddy. He gets my humor, and unless he gets too deep into the Broadway stuff, I get his humor. We share a laugh pretty well. We each have pretty thick skin, along with pretty thick middles, but nonetheless, it's always good for a laugh. And I always know that while he likes to laugh and making other people laugh and happy is a big deal for him, I know there's a really big heartbeat in that chest.